Let's welcome our good friend Bruce Dowbiggin. He knows I'm a long-time fan, long before we even knew each other. Coming this month, I'm sure it's out right now, the book Deal With It. Bruce and his son Evan's new book, Deal With It. The trades that stunned the NHL and changed hockey. From Espo to Boston in 1967 to Gretz in LA in 1988. Patrick Roy leaving Montreal in 1995. Available now on Amazon. Before we get to that, Bruce, for our Calgary fan viewers, there are many out there. Can I just ask you what the Jacob Markstrom trade signals, what you think it signals for the Calgary Flames franchise?
Well, I think at the end of most people gave up on the team last year, but there was a kind of a flurry towards the end of the year last year. Some of the guys that were brought in trades, Sharon Govich and a group of the other guys, I think there was a sense that maybe they weren't as far away from the next step as people thought they might be. This seems to say, the Markstrom thing seems to say to me that it's not a 1 year, it's maybe 2 to 3 years that they're looking down the road for that team. And that they still try to build up their farm system, trying to get the depth that they want. I think it's the kind of move you have to make. The question will be, of course, whether this young defenseman that they're bringing in is the real deal. People are I wouldn't say skeptical, but people are taking a wait and see here in the city. As you probably know, they still haven't put a shovel in the ground for the new arena. A lot of the time people said, well, they want to have the team ready for when the arena comes online. That, as far as I know so far, that there's nothing new with the arena having started the construction yet. So it's going to be a couple of testing years. We'll see. It would really be great if somehow the Flames had won the lottery like their friends to the north did every freaking time, getting Connor McDavid kind of people. It would be nice, but that hasn't happened. So
I've spent enough time in Calgary to know I don't even bring up the new arena anymore. It's a sore subject. I hear 100 different things from 100 different people, so I'll just be happy when they're playing in it. Listen, we're going to get to your book because I'm fascinated about it, but you love a great story. You write books. This Stanley Cup final has become a great story, Bruce.
Yeah, I had some point, not that I bet much, but anyhow, at some point I had Florida to win 4-1 or Florida to win 4-2. So tonight is the big night, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it has evolved, and what's always concerned me about Connor McDavid is that he just hasn't had a showcase for people to see how great he really is. He's just a fantastic player. In some ways, he reminds me of Bobby Hull. Some ways, he reminds me of Bobby Orr. He dominates the game when he really feels like it or when he really has to. The first few games, they just couldn't get anything by Bobrovsky. All of a sudden, they're getting stuff by Bobrovsky. And Florida, they now have that feeling in the pit of their stomach that, The thing that, to me, the turning point of this series wasn't the blowout game. It was Connor Brown's shorty in the first period of the last game. And I think that was what really concerned Florida. I think that Paul Maurice looked at that and said, we got to get this back together again. And they haven't yet. And I'll be interested to see what sort of climate. We know what Edmonton will be like. We'll see how Florida handles it.
And by the way, I had Florida in 6 too, but I think that's why I appreciate you, because I think we see things the same way. You're right. Nobody really knew who McDavid was in America. We all know in Canada because it's been crammed down our throat. But I talked to my wife this morning, and she said the talk in the gym in South Florida was about McDavid, and they said, he looks like the way he jumped through and set up that goal the other day. Yeah, that's how you're a Florida person. You know what I mean? There's so many Northeasterners down there that do love hockey, and they're all watching right. He looked like So
Number
speaking
4,
of
Bobby Orr.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they love Espo too, and he's the founder of the Tampa Bay Lightning franchise. And so when I saw your book that you talk about that trade, which nobody talks about anymore, the Gretzky trade still comes up, but the Espo trade at the time had to be as earth-shattering. So talk about your new book, if you don't mind.
Well, we chose 8 trades that we think symbolize the development of trades over the period of time. My son, who works at TSN, he runs TSN Stats Center. He and I worked together on these things. We debated which trades to make. He forbade me to have any trades in the 1950s because he said everybody who's in the 50s is dead now. I said, okay, fine. So we started at 67. And for me, I was, 14 years old in 1967. And the Bruins had been a bad team for a long time. Ord had one season as a rookie. The team was still bad, and they needed something. And for some reason, Billy Ray in Chicago got mad at Phil Esposito and decided to get him out of here. And the Bruins were able to jump in, and it made the big bad Bruins. I mean, they were an exciting team. They were a team sort of like Edmonton is now. The people who don't live in Edmonton are attracted to. Oh gosh, they're fantastic. They're exciting. So that was the creation of the Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito Bruins, and it was probably the most lopsided trade in terms of production between the two. Kenny Hodge, who came over as well, he had 40-goal seasons. Fred Stanfield was their point guy on the power play. It was a huge one-sided trade. The best that Chicago got back was a guy named Pitt Martin. And so it created a great team. And had Bobby Orr's knees held together, that team would have won 5 Stanley Cups. They should have won 5, but I think they would have won 5 if Bobby had had a 15 to 20-year career.
So I'm looking up right now Espo's career, and I think of him as the Bruins to the Rangers. I mean, he's such a special guy, man. We've been around him with our Cats and Bolts podcast because we cover the Panthers and the Lightning, and I'd never met him before. My God, at 80, whatever he is, I can't imagine what he was at 30. But him going to the Rangers, amazing too. Like, is Espo in there twice for crazy trades?
Well, all of the trades, what we did was, okay, here's the trade. Who are the people who were involved in it? The people who made the trade, the players who were in the trade. And we go back to basically the starting principles. The Doug Gilmour trade, for instance, we start with Cliff Fletcher started the Atlanta Flames because we want to understand Cliff Fletcher and the Flames when they make that deal. Same thing with Boston. We go back and we try to trace all of these guys, and we let you know what happened to everybody in the trade afterward. So it's been interesting because each one had to be different. So the second trade, we concentrated on the Bruin trade, not the Rangers trade. It's mentioned in there. The next one is Frank Mahovlich. We had a debate: should it be the Frank to Detroit trade or the Frank to Montreal trade? My son said Stanley Cups came out of the Frank to Montreal, so we chose that one. The Gretzky trade obviously is in there, but not necessarily just as a hockey trade, because as we know, Gretz didn't win any cups in LA. But it was significant because it was the first time we really had a team that couldn't afford to pay its stars. That was, as you know, Rod, that was the start of a whole period of time in which the Canadian teams had a 63-cent dollar. They couldn't afford to pay people. Gretz goes to LA, and all of a sudden the Sunshine States, where you spend your winter, that they become a place for hockey.
Yeah, I don't rue the day, but that was the last day that I cheered for the Edmonton Oilers. It comes up in my life every single day. We were talking about it in the press box at the Moose Jaw Baseball Diamond last night, the Gretzky trade. But it's not just about the finances. To me, Bruce, how that changed all of sports is that anybody can be traded. Until that day proved anybody can be traded. There's been nothing like it in any sport in my mind.
Yep. That's why we put it in there, was the significance to the league, to the business of hockey, and then to fans. All of a sudden you realize, don't get hung up on a guy because likely he won't be. Remember, you used to get a Gordie Howe jersey and it lasted for 25 years and you could put it in your closet. Nowadays, you got a guy for 5-7 years, maybe, and then the jersey is redundant and you have to go get something else, the latest place. So that's really significant. And again, we go through the trades. We obviously have the Patrick Roy trade, which is significant because he basically walks out on the Canadians. That had never really happened before. If you're old enough, you remember the Hockey Night in Canada, him going to the owner of the Canadians and saying, "I'm out of here." Fantastic description of it. Yep, exactly. Right. And then the last two chapters, one is about how the Vegas Golden Knights used trades to build their team on the day they did their expansion draft. And the second is about the Tkachuk trade, which, of course, I'll have to update my book a little bit depending on what happens in Game 6 or Game 7.
Oh, you've sold it. You've sold me. I got to read this book. Is it available now? I saw the coming soon. Is it available now at Amazon?
Yeah, you can order it on Amazon. It should be published. We had one of the things about self-publishing. This is the first time we're self-publishing. Is you can go back and correct things or change things. So we went back into to have a few things sort of reorganized because this was our first time doing this. And so the book is available. You can order it, and it comes in Kindle form too. So if you're a Kindle reader, you can get it right away for the books. They're coming out in the next few days. So yeah, they're available. Give it a chance.
Deal with It is the book from Evan and Bruce Dowbiggin. Bruce, always a pleasure chatting with you. I look forward to when I see you again face to face. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Roddy. See you later.